Anne, a young journalist with an insatiable curiosity and a relentless drive, had always been drawn to stories that skirted the edges of the explainable. But nothing had prepared her for the unraveling of reality itself. It began with a message, a digital whisper in the vast noise of the internet from someone she held dear, someone who had vanished into the thin air of a desolate desert. This friend, Alex, wasn't just any acquaintance. He was a fellow seeker, a kindred spirit who shared Anne's thirst for uncovering truths hidden in plain sight. Alex had a particular obsession: the limits of human consciousness. He believed that beyond the veil of our everyday reality lay answers to questions humanity hadn't yet thought to ask. And in his quest for these answers, he stumbled upon something, a substance, he claimed, that could peel back the layers of perception and reveal the universe's hidden threads. The message was cryptic, hurriedly typed as if Alex was glancing over his shoulder with every word. "Anne, if you're reading this, I've gone too far. But it's all true, all of it. This isn't about drugs or hallucinations. It's about seeing the world as it really is. They're going to come after me. But the story, it needs to get out. Follow the trail. Start at the beginning. Look for the man with the emerald eye. Don't trust anyone else." That was the last anyone heard from Alex. The message ended as abruptly as it began, leaving behind a chilling silence and 1,000 unanswered questions. Anne knew in her gut that this was more than just a story. It was a call to arms, a plea from beyond the veil of the known. And so, with nothing but Alex's cryptic clues and a deep, unshakable determination, Anne set out into the desert, toward the unknown. The desert loomed large and unforgiving, a vast expanse of secrets and shadows. It was here, among the shifting sands and the whispered legends of time, that Anne hoped to find the beginning of a trail. A trail that would lead her into the heart of a mystery so profound, it threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. Armed with her wits, a notebook, and an unyielding resolve, Anne stepped into the abyss, ready to chase the echoes of truths hidden in the silent expanse. What lay ahead was unknown, but one thing was certain. The journey would change her, for better or worse, forever. Echoes of the Abyss was not just a search for a missing friend, it was a journey into the heart of darkness, a test of faith in the unseen, and a quest for the truth that lay hidden beneath layers of deception and fear. Anne was about to discover that some truths were not meant for the faint of heart, and some doors, once opened, could never be closed again. Anne's day had begun like any other, with the mundane glow of her computer screen and a steady hum of activity in the newsroom. But all semblance of normality shattered the moment her inbox pinged with a new message, its subject line a string of numbers and letters that made no immediate sense. It was from Alex. With a mixture of excitement and dread tightening in her chest, Anne clicked open the email, her eyes scanning the words that would irrevocably alter the course of her life. The message was brief, its tone urgent and laced with an undercurrent of fear that sent shivers down her spine. "Anne," it began, "I've stumbled upon something big. It's hard to explain over text, and I'm not sure I fully understand it myself yet. But I'm onto a discovery that transcends our reality as we know it. This isn't hyperbole. I'm talking about a breakthrough that challenges the very fabric of human experience, something that could either elevate us to a new understanding or plunge us into chaos. I need you to trust me on this." The message continued, veering into more cryptic territory. "I've been experimenting with a substance not listed in any scientific journal or database. Its effects, they're unlike anything documented. It's as if it unlocks parts of the mind we don't even know exist, revealing truths about the universe that are hidden in plain sight. I can't say much more for now. I believe they're monitoring my communications. Just know that if anything happens to me, if I disappear or worse, I've left clues for you to follow. Start with the man with the emerald eye. He knows more than he lets on. Don't trust anyone else. The truth must come out, but be careful, Anne. This is bigger than us." The message ended as abruptly as it began, leaving Anne in a state of bewildered alarm. There was no signature, no goodbye, just a string of encrypted files attached below, their contents locked away behind layers of passwords that Alex knew only Anne could decipher. As the weight of Alex's words sank in, Anne felt a resolve hardening within her. Whatever Alex had discovered, it was not only groundbreaking but dangerous. He was in over his head, and now, so was she. The reference to a man with the emerald eye was obscure, a riddle wrapped in a mystery, but it was the only lead she had. Anne knew she had to act, and fast. The newsroom around her faded into a blur as Anne's mind raced. This was no ordinary story, it was a plea for help, a breadcrumb trail leading into the unknown. With a mixture of fear and determination, Anne made her decision. She would follow Alex's clues, unearth his discovery, and bring it to light, no matter the cost. The journey ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but Anne knew there was no turning back. The truth awaited, hidden in the shadows, and she was the key to uncovering it. The next morning found Anne driving into the heart of the desert, her car loaded with supplies, maps, and a simmering determination. The landscape stretched endlessly, a sea of sand and rock under the relentless sun. Alex's last known location was a small, almost forgotten research facility on the edge of this vast wilderness. It was here, amidst the desolation, that Anne hoped to find the first piece in the puzzle of his disappearance. As the miles slipped by, Anne's thoughts churned. Alex's message was a maze of cryptic hints and dire warnings, but it was all she had to go on. The man with the emerald eye remained an enigma, a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of understanding. Yet, something about the desert itself seemed to whisper secrets, as if it were a silent guardian over the mysteries buried within its sands. Arriving at the outskirts of the research facility, Anne was struck by the desolation that enveloped the area. The facility, a collection of dilapidated buildings, seemed abandoned, a relic of a bygone era of optimism and discovery. It was hard to imagine this place as the scene of groundbreaking research, let alone the last known whereabouts of her friend. Undeterred, Anne began her investigation. She scoured the facility, searching for any clue that might shed light on Alex's work and his sudden disappearance. The buildings were empty, echoing chambers of rusted equipment and scattered papers, but no sign of Alex or his research. It was only when Anne ventured further into the desert, beyond the immediate perimeter of the facility, that she found something. There, half buried in the sand, was a small, unassuming USB drive, its exterior worn by the elements. It was an unlikely discovery in such a vast, desolate landscape, yet Anne knew it was no coincidence. This had to be one of Alex's breadcrumbs, deliberately left for her to find. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Anne returned to her car to examine the drive's contents on her laptop. The files were heavily encrypted, but Anne, having collaborated with Alex on previous investigations, was familiar with his methods. It took hours of painstaking work under the harsh light of a fading day, but eventually, she broke through the encryption. What she found was astonishing. The drive contained research notes, experimental data, and a series of video logs that chronicled Alex's descent into the unknown. He spoke of the substance, its origin shrouded in secrecy, and its ability to open doorways to realms beyond human comprehension. His final log was a desperate warning, a plea for caution, should anyone attempt to follow in his footsteps. Anne sat back, the weight of discovery pressing down on her. Alex had found something extraordinary, something dangerous. And now, he was gone. The desert around her no longer seemed just a barren wasteland, it was a threshold, hiding wonders and horrors in equal measure. As night fell and the stars blazed to life above, Anne felt a resolve stealing within her. She would not let Alex's discovery fade into obscurity. She would trace his steps, confront whatever truths lay waiting in the depths of the desert, and expose the reality that had consumed her friend. The journey ahead was fraught with unknowns, but Anne was determined to uncover the truth, no matter where it led. Under the cloak of night, with only the cold glow of her laptop screen illuminating the interior of her car, Anne delved deeper into the digital legacy Alex had left behind. The encrypted files on the USB drive were a Pandora's box, each document and video log a piece of the intricate puzzle that had consumed her friend's life. It was here, in the silent communion with Alex's digital ghost, that Anne uncovered the heart of the mystery. The new, undocumented substance that had promised so much and cost so dearly. Alex's notes were meticulous, a testament to his rigorous mind and the seriousness with which he approached this venture. He described the substance in scientific terms, noting its peculiar properties and the absence of any known compounds within its makeup. It was as if the substance had been engineered to interact with the human brain in ways that defied existing scientific understanding. Alex had procured it through means he left deliberately vague, aware of the dangerous waters he navigated. As Anne pieced together the timeline from Alex's logs, she realized the experimentation had started innocuously enough. Small doses, carefully measured responses. But as the effects became apparent, the nature of the experimentation shifted. Alex spoke of visions, not hallucinations but clear, lucid glimpses into realities that ran parallel to our own. These weren't the fanciful imaginings of a mind under the influence, they were windows into the universe's very fabric, revealing layers of existence previously undreamed of. The substance had a cost, however. Alex's later logs hinted at a psychological toll, a fraying of the boundaries between his mind and the realms he accessed. He mentioned side effects, periods of lost time, and an increasing sense of paranoia, not of being watched by human agencies, but of attracting the attention of something else, entities from the realms he had touched. Anne's hands trembled as she watched the final video log. Alex, gaunt and visibly shaken, spoke directly to the camera. "If you're watching this, Anne, it means I've gone too far. I've seen wonders that words can't capture, but I've also glimpsed horrors that lurk just beyond our sight. This substance, it's a key, but it's also a door. And I'm afraid of what's on the other side. I've tried to destroy it, but I can't be sure I've succeeded. Be careful. This knowledge is a heavy burden." The video ended abruptly, leaving a silence that hung heavy in the air. Anne sat, motionless, as the implications of Alex's words washed over her. The substance wasn't just a new discovery, it was a nexus of unimaginable possibilities and unfathomable dangers. Alex had believed it held the key to transcending human limitations, to piercing the veil between worlds. But in his quest for enlightenment, he had stumbled upon a darkness that threatened to consume him. Dawn was breaking, the first light of day casting long shadows across the desert landscape. Anne knew what she had to do. Armed with the knowledge of Alex's experimentation and the dire warnings he had left behind, she would continue the investigation. She would find the source of the substance and uncover the truth behind the government's involvement. But more than anything, she would find Alex, wherever his journey had led him, and bring him back from the brink. With a renewed sense of purpose, Anne packed away her laptop and prepared to venture into the day. The desert, with all its secrets and shadows, awaited her. Anne's journey led her next to a small, unassuming town on the very edge of the desert, a place that maps seemed to overlook, and time appeared to have forgotten. It was a stark contrast to the barren expanses she had traversed. Life here clung on, stubborn and resilient amid the dust and desolation. The town, if it could be called that, was more a collection of weather-beaten buildings huddling together against the vastness of the desert beyond. Driving slowly through the main street, Anne observed the town through the eyes of an investigator. It was quiet, too quiet for a late morning. A few locals moved about, casting curious glances at the outsider in their midst. Anne could feel the weight of their stares, a mix of suspicion and something else, wariness, perhaps, or fear. It was clear that strangers were a rare sight here, and not particularly welcome. Parking her car near what looked to be the town's only diner, Anne decided to start her inquiries there. The diner was a relic of a bygone era, its interior adorned with memorabilia that had seen better days. A few patrons sat at the counter, nursing cups of coffee, their conversation ceasing as Anne entered. The air was thick with unspoken questions. Undeterred, Anne approached the counter, ordering a coffee and striking up a conversation with the waitress, a middle-aged woman with a guarded demeanor. Anne introduced herself as a journalist working on a story about the desert and its hidden histories. It was a half-truth designed to probe without alarming, to gather information without revealing her true purpose. As the conversation unfolded, Anne gently steered it towards the topic of the nearby research facility and any unusual activity in the area. The waitress's expression tightened, a clear sign that Anne had ventured into sensitive territory. "We don't see much of those government types around here," she said, her voice low. "But there's been talk, whispers of experiments and things best left alone. Folks here mind their own business, and I'd suggest you do the same." Anne's mention of her missing friend elicited a flicker of recognition in the waitress's eyes, quickly masked. "Can't say I've heard of anyone going missing," she replied, but her tone lacked conviction. It was clear that Anne's questions were stirring unease, touching on a dark secret that the town harbored. Thanking the waitress, Anne left the diner with more questions than answers. The town was hiding something, a piece of the puzzle that Alex had stumbled upon in his research. It was not just the isolation of the desert that cloaked this place in mystery, but a deliberate silence, a collective agreement to look away from whatever transpired in the shadows. Determined to peel back the layers, Anne spent the rest of the day exploring the town, talking to anyone who would speak with her, always circling back to the research facility and its mysterious purpose. The responses were vague, tinged with fear, but a picture began to emerge of a community living in the shadow of something they didn't fully understand. As the sun set, painting the desert in shades of fire and blood, Anne knew she was on the right track. The town, with its whispered secrets and wary inhabitants, was a gateway to the truth she sought. Somewhere within this nexus of fear and silence lay the key to unraveling the mystery of the substance, the experiments, and Alex's fate. Anne returned to her car, her resolve hardened. Tomorrow, she would push further, digging deeper into the heart of the town's secret. For now, the desert night closed in, a blanket of stars watching over her solitary vigil. The truth was out there, hidden in the shadows, and Anne was determined to bring it into the light. The dawn of a new day in the desert brought with it a renewed determination for Anne. With the scant information gleaned from her visit to the diner, she set out to weave through the fabric of silence that seemed to envelop the town. The locals, with their guarded glances and terse words, held the key to unraveling the mystery that had swallowed her friend Alex. It was in their whispers and half-told stories that Anne hoped to find the truth about the unusual activities linked to the research facility and the shadow of government presence that loomed over the town. Armed with a notepad, a recorder, and a relentless spirit, Anne ventured beyond the main street, approaching the town's more secluded areas where the older inhabitants lived. These were the folks who had seen generations pass by, who remembered times before the facility became the town's silent specter. Anne believed that if anyone knew the secrets of the desert, it would be them. Her first encounter was with an elderly man, tending to a sparse garden in the early morning chill. Introducing herself and her mission, Anne noted the flicker of caution in the man's eyes before he agreed to talk. His voice, tempered by age, carried the weight of unspoken fears as he recounted the changes he'd observed over the years. Used to be, you could count the cars passing through on one hand, he began, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. But then, maybe some 5-10 years back, things changed. Started seeing government vehicles, unmarked, mind you, coming and going at all hours. They'd head out toward the facility, or sometimes just out into the desert, where there's nothing but sand for miles. Anne pressed gently, asking if he or anyone else had ever followed or questioned these mysterious visits. The man shook his head, a wry smile touching his lips. Folks around here learned to mind their own business long ago. But it's not just the vehicles. Strange lights in the sky at night, sounds that don't belong in the desert. It's as if the earth itself was restless. Thanking the man for his insights, Anne moved on, her mind racing with the implications of his words. Each interview with the locals added layers to the story. A woman at the town's small grocery store whispered rumors of scientists and military personnel seen in town, their presence unofficial but unmistakable. She spoke of deliveries of equipment and materials, all headed toward the facility, their purpose cloaked in secrecy. Another resident, a middle-aged mechanic whose shop sat on the edge of town, offered a more personal account. A year or so ago, a fella came through, asking a lot of questions about the facility, about what folks had seen or heard. He was like you, looking for answers. Said he was a researcher, that something wasn't right out there in the desert. The mechanic paused, his expression somber. Never saw him again. People said he just up and disappeared, like he'd been swallowed up by the sands. As the day waned, Anne pieced together the mosaic of testimonies, each hinting at a deeper, more unsettling narrative. The unusual activity, the government's silent watch over the town, and the ominous presence of the facility in the desert, it all pointed to a concerted effort to hide something monumental. Returning to her car, Anne felt the gravity of what she had uncovered. The town and its inhabitants were caught in the web of the government's secret, their lives overshadowed by the unexplained phenomena that emanated from the desert. Anne realized that the key to finding Alex and understanding his fate lay in confronting the shadows cast by the facility. With each local story, the path forward became clearer, leading Anne deeper into the heart of the mystery. Armed with a mosaic of whispered rumors and half-seen shadows gathered from the town's residents, Anne set her sights on uncovering the physical heart of the mystery. The government facility itself. The testimonies had painted a picture of a place both central to the town's whispered fears and effectively invisible, camouflaged against prying eyes by the very landscape that surrounded it. As the sun cast its first golden rays over the desert, Anne embarked on her journey, the coordinates she had pieced together from various conversations programmed into her GPS. The road out of town quickly gave way to unpaved tracks, the kind that seemed more like afterthoughts than deliberate paths, weaving through the desert's vastness. The desert landscape was a tapestry of shifting sands and stubborn rock, a place where life clung tenaciously to the fringes of existence. It was here, in this inhospitable expanse, that the government had chosen to hide its secrets. As Anne drove, the silence of the desert enveloped her, a stark reminder of how isolated this facility was, how perfectly it blended into its surroundings. Hours passed, the sun arcing steadily across the sky, when suddenly, the outline of something unnatural appeared on the horizon. At first glance, it seemed like a mirage, a trick of the light and heat, but as Anne drew closer, the vague outline crystallized into a tangible form. It was the facility, so expertly concealed within the landscape that one could easily drive past without noticing. Its structures were low, earth-toned, designed to mimic the desert's natural contours. Antennae and satellite dishes punctuated its form, the only clear sign of its purpose. Anne parked her car at a safe distance, continuing on foot to avoid detection. The facility was surrounded by a high fence, topped with barbed wire, a clear message that visitors were not welcome. Security cameras dotted the perimeter, their lenses sweeping the empty landscape for any sign of intrusion. Using a pair of binoculars, Anne surveyed the facility from her vantage point. There were buildings that looked like research labs, others that seemed like storage facilities, and in the center, a larger structure that could only be described as a command center. Vehicles marked with the insignia of unknown government agencies were parked in a designated area, and personnel moved between buildings with a sense of purpose that spoke of high-stakes work. It was a scene that spoke volumes, confirming not only the existence of the facility, but also its importance. The level of security, the isolation, the very effort put into concealing its presence, all pointed to activities far beyond mundane government research. Anne felt a chill run down her spine as she considered the implications. This was the place where Alex's journey had led him, where the substance and its terrifying potential were being explored or exploited. Anne knew she needed more than just visual confirmation, she needed evidence, something concrete she could use to expose the truth. But with the sun beginning to dip towards the horizon and the facility security no doubt on high alert for trespassers, she realized that direct infiltration would be impossible. She would have to be cunning, patient, and prepared to seize any opportunity to learn what lay behind those guarded walls. As she retreated to her car, the facility fading into the landscape once more, Anne felt the weight of her task. She was up against a behemoth, a shadowy entity with resources and secrets beyond her imagining. But the drive to uncover the truth, to expose the darkness and find Alex, burned brighter than ever within her. The facility, with its hidden horrors and guarded secrets, was now the key to everything. The challenge of infiltrating the camouflaged government facility loomed large in Anne's mind, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle between her and the truth. Yet, driven by the memory of Alex and the whispers of horror that threaded through the town's reluctant testimonies, she forged ahead with a plan that was equal parts desperation and determination. Under the cloak of night, Anne made her approach, using the desert's undulating terrain to her advantage. Her earlier reconnaissance had revealed a less guarded section of the perimeter fence, likely overlooked due to the harsh, inhospitable landscape that surrounded it. Clad in dark clothing and armed with wire cutters, she felt every inch the intruder, a role both thrilling and terrifying. The fence, formidable in the daylight, was just another obstacle in the darkness, quickly overcome with a combination of patience and sheer nerve. Once inside, Anne moved with purpose, sticking to the shadows cast by the facility's sparse exterior lighting, her heart a drumbeat loud in her ears. Her destination was one of the smaller outbuildings she had observed earlier, one that appeared less secure and, she hoped, would offer a way inside the complex. Luck, it seemed, was on her side. An unlocked door betrayed a lapse in security protocol, providing her with the entry she needed. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of chemicals, the silence punctuated by the hum of machinery and distant voices. Anne's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she began to explore, her camera at the ready. What she found within the bowels of the facility was beyond her wildest imaginings. Labs cluttered with equipment and papers detailed experiments that skirted the edge of science fiction. Vials of the substance Alex had described were stored here, each meticulously labeled with codes that hinted at their potency and purpose. Anne stumbled upon a room that chilled her to the bone, a viewing area, behind which lay a series of chambers. Inside, subjects, human and otherwise, were exposed to the substance, their reactions monitored and recorded. The notes, hastily scribbled and scattered about, spoke of attempts to access other dimensions, of gateways opened within the mind that led to realms beyond human comprehension. It was clear that the substance was a key, a means to breach the barriers that separated realities. But the research was fraught with danger. Among the scientific observations were accounts of subjects lost to madness, their psyches shattered by what they had witnessed. Others spoke of entities, glimpsed in the throes of the substance's effects, that were not meant to exist in our world. The researchers themselves seemed torn between fear and fascination, their morality eroded by the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. Anne documented everything, her camera clicking quietly in the dark. Here was the proof of Alex's claims, the evidence that would expose the government's reckless tampering with forces beyond their control. But as she delved deeper into the facility's secrets, Anne couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that she had stumbled into a web from which there was no escape. The realization hit her suddenly, a moment of clarity amidst a horror. This was bigger than a simple government conspiracy. They had uncovered something ancient and powerful, a darkness that lurked at the edge of human understanding, waiting for a door to open. With the evidence in hand, Anne knew she had to escape, to bring the truth to light before it was too late. But as she retraced her steps, the facility seemed to come alive around her, its secrets clawing at the edges of her mind, whispering of wonders and horrors that lay just beyond the veil. In the quiet aftermath of her harrowing discovery within the facility's clandestine labs, Anne stood at a crossroads of conscience and curiosity. The evidence she had gathered was damning, a testament to the hubris of those who sought to play God with the fabric of reality. Yet, amid the chilling accounts and scientific fervor captured in the candle's memory, a deeper, more personal quest nodded a resolve. The fate of Alex, her friend who had vanished into the unknown. The substance, a vial of it now lying in her palm, seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. It was the key to understanding everything. The experiments, the government's interest, and the nightmarish dimensions that Alex had ventured into. With a mix of trepidation and determination, Anne made her decision. To uncover the truth, to truly grasp the nature of Alex's disappearance, she would have to follow in his footsteps. She would have to cross the threshold herself. The lab was silent as she prepared, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions raging within her. With a steadying breath that did little to calm her racing heart, Anne ingested the substance, the vial's contents, a bitter echo of her fear and resolve. What followed was an experience that defied language, a journey into realms that human consciousness was not meant to traverse. The walls of the lab melted away, revealing an infinite expanse that pulsed with the raw energy of creation and destruction intertwined. Colors unseen by human eyes painted the void, and the fabric of reality itself seemed to warp and weave around her. Anne floated in the space beyond spaces, her sense of self both magnified and diminished in the face of such cosmic immensity. She understood, then, the allure that had drawn Alex deeper into the mystery, the siren call of knowledge that promised enlightenment and oblivion in equal measure. But there was horror here, too, lurking in the corners of this newfound reality. Entities that defied description, beings of pure energy and thought, observed her arrival with curiosity and hunger. The terror that gripped her was primal, a fear not of death, but of being unmade, of losing her essence to the infinite. She saw, then, what had become of Alex, his consciousness adrift in this vast ocean of the unknown, a part of it yet apart from it, lost in the eternal dance of realities beyond comprehension. As the effects of the substance began to wane, Anne felt herself pulled back to the confines of her own reality, the lab materializing around her as if conjured from the ether. She collapsed, exhausted and changed, her mind a whirlwind of images and emotions that would take a lifetime to unravel. In that moment, Anne understood the true nature of the government's experiments, the danger of the path they had chosen to walk. They sought to harness the power of these other dimensions, ignorant of or indifferent to the catastrophic consequences of their actions. And Alex, in his pursuit of truth, had become a casualty of their ambition. Anne's resolve hardened in the aftermath of her experience. She would expose the government's recklessness, the existence of the substance, and the realities it revealed. But more than that, she would find a way to bring Alex back, to anchor him once more to the world he had left behind. Her journey had only just begun, a quest not just for truth, but for redemption and rescue in the face of horrors beyond human comprehension. In the aftermath of her transcendental journey, Anne struggled to reconcile the incomprehensible realities she had witnessed with the tangible world she once understood. The entities she encountered in that other dimension, beings compassed of energy and thought far removed from any earthly life form, lingered in her mind like echoes of a dream too profound to fully grasp. These beings, the guardians of the threshold between dimensions, revealed to Anne a narrative far beyond the scope of human ambition and fear. Through visions that transcended language, they imparted knowledge of the government's experiments, the true purpose of which was now chillingly clear. The facility, hidden in the desert's embrace, was not merely a laboratory for the study of hallucinogens and their psychological effects. It was a gateway, a point of convergence where the thin veil separating dimensions could be pierced. The substance was the key to this gateway, a tool devised after years of research and experimentation, derived from materials that seemed to originate from the very dimension it opened into. The government's aim was audacious: to explore, control, and exploit the resources and knowledge of parallel dimensions. These realms, boundless in their diversity and potential, offered power beyond imagining energy sources, technological advancements, even insights into the nature of existence itself. But this pursuit was fraught with peril, a gamble with stakes higher than the minds behind the experiments could possibly comprehend. The entities Anne encountered were not just passive observers of this intrusion, they were protectors, custodians of the balance between worlds. Their message was one of warning, not just to Anne but to all humanity. The threshold between dimensions was guarded for a reason. The fabric of reality was not to be tampered with lightly, for the consequences could unravel not just the fabric of one world, but of all existence. Anne realized that the substance's ability to reveal these other dimensions was not an accidental discovery, but a beacon, as she had suspected. It attracted the attention of the Guardians, signaling humanity's reach into realms it was not prepared to understand or respect. Alex's fate, his consciousness adrift in the vastness of the multiverse, was a testament to the arrogance and recklessness of those who sought to exploit these cosmic secrets. With her return to the tangible world, Anne was burdened with a profound responsibility. She held in her hands the knowledge of the government's true purpose, the existence of the entities, and the perilous nature of the experiments. The revelations granted by the Guardians painted a dire picture of a future where the continued tampering with the dimensions could lead to catastrophic consequences, not just for humanity, but for the very fabric of reality. Determined to expose the truth, Anne prepared to confront the architects of the experiments. She would reveal the government's ambitions, the dangers they posed, and the existence of the Guardians. Her evidence was irrefutable, a testimony not only of human folly, but of the interconnectedness of all existence. The task was monumental, but the stakes were higher than ever. The journey into the unknown had revealed not just the potential for enlightenment and destruction, but the necessity for stewardship and respect in the face of the infinite. The balance between dimensions, once disturbed, demanded restoration, and Anne found herself an unlikely champion in the quest to safeguard the future of all worlds. In the solitude of her makeshift sanctuary, a nondescript room within the confines of what was once a place of untold secrets, Anne wrestled with the enormity of the revelations that had been thrust upon her. The entities she encountered, guardians of the dimensional threshold, had laid bare the full scope of human hubris, embodied by the government's clandestine experiments. What began as a pursuit of knowledge and power had devolved into a catastrophic folly, the consequences of which threatened the very fabric of existence. The experiments, as Anne came to understand, were not merely exploratory ventures into the unknown realms of human consciousness and the mysteries of the universe. They were aggressive attempts to harness and control the powers of the entities that resided within these parallel dimensions. The government scientists, blinded by ambition and the allure of untapped power, believed they could subjugate these beings, bending the fundamental forces of the universe to human will. However, the entities, embodiments of the dimensions they guarded, were not beings to be trifled with. Their power was intrinsic to the balance of the cosmos, a balance meticulously maintained over eons. The scientists' attempts to harness this power had unforeseen and devastating consequences. The substance, the key to the gateway between worlds, became a tool of violation, tearing open rifts in the veil that separated dimensions. These breaches were uncontrollable, gaping wounds in the fabric of reality, through which the energies and entities of other dimensions could spill into our own. The effects were immediate and alarming. Ecosystems began to warp, the laws of physics frayed, and the very essence of reality became unstable. Reports buried deep within the facility's archives, which Anne uncovered, spoke of areas around the test sites where time flowed erratically, where matter behaved in inexplicable ways, hinting at the growing instability between the worlds. The most terrifying aspect of these breaches was the unintended invitation they extended. Entities, curious or malevolent, began to explore the pathways open to them, their presence manifesting in our world in ways that defied explanation and challenged containment. The guardians of the threshold, once protectors of the balance, found themselves engaged in a struggle to repair the damage wrought by human arrogance. Anne realized that the government had grossly underestimated the entity's power and the complexity of the dimensions they sought to exploit. The pursuit of control had instead led to chaos, a Pandora's box of cosmic proportions that could not simply be closed or undone. The scientists had initiated a game of cosmic roulette, the consequences of which were now all too apparent. With this knowledge, Anne's mission crystallized. She had to expose the truth, to reveal the reckless endangerment of all existence by those who sought power over understanding, control over wisdom. Armed with her evidence and the harrowing account of her own journey across the threshold, she prepared to bring the government's misdeeds into the light. The task was daunting, the opposition formidable, but the stakes were higher than personal safety or the fear of reprisal. Anne stood on the precipice of a revelation that could alter the course of human destiny. The breaches between dimensions had to be closed, the balance restored, and the entity's powers respected and left untouched. Her resolve was ironclad, fueled by the knowledge that the future of not just one world, but of all worlds, hung in the balance. The path forward was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but Anne knew that the truth, once revealed, had the power to change everything. The fight to mend the unraveling fabric of reality was not just a battle for survival, but a crusade for the soul of the universe itself. As Anne delved deeper into the morass of secrets and revelations, piecing together the catastrophic puzzle of the government's experiments and their repercussions, she encountered a thread. Determined to expose the recklessness and the imminent dangers posed by the experiments, Alex compiled evidence, documenting the unstable breaches, the entities that began seeping into our reality, and the untold risks of further tampering with the fabric of existence. His notes, meticulously detailed and backed by stolen documents and recordings, painted a damning picture of the government's folly. But Alex's efforts to bring this information to light were met with swift and ruthless oppression. The very forces he sought to expose, aware of the threat his knowledge posed, moved against him. Communications intercepted, movements tracked, and a net of silence slowly tightened around him. His attempts to reach out, to find allies in his quest for exposure, were systematically thwarted. Those few who received his messages, cryptic warnings, and pleas for help found themselves wrestling with fear and disbelief. Anne, piecing together the last days of Alex's freedom through the remnants of his digital footprint and the whispered confessions of those who had briefly crossed his path, saw the outline of a tragic hero's fall. Alex, isolated and pursued, had become a ghost, a voice crying out in the wilderness, unheard and unheeded. His final act, the dissemination of his findings in a desperate attempt to alert the world, was his undoing. The entities he sought to expose ensured his silence, not through elimination, but through a fate far more insidious, his absorption into the very rifts he aimed to seal. His disappearance, a mystery that had haunted Anne, was now a clarion call to action. Alex had seen the abyss gazing back and had dared to confront it. His silence, a void that echoed with the weight of unsung courage, became the fuel for Anne's resolve. With the truth of Alex's fate unveiled, Anne understood the magnitude of the risk she faced in continuing his legacy. Yet, the path forward was irrevocably set. To honor Alex's sacrifice, to ensure his voice would not be drowned in the shadows, Anne would carry the torch he had lit, a beacon in the dark against the encroaching tide of oblivion. Her resolve hardened by the memory of Alex's determination and the stark reality of his silencing, Anne prepared to step into the light, to expose the dangers and the entities, to call for an end to the experiments. Alex's silence would be broken, his findings made known. The battle for the truth, for the safety of all realities, was just beginning, and Anne, fueled by loss, friendship, and the rightness of her cause, was ready to lead the charge. In the quiet aftermath of her earth-shattering journey through the fabric of dimensions, Anne sat in solitude, grappling with the profound revelations that had come to light. The substance, once thought to be a mere hallucinogenic compound capable of altering human consciousness, revealed its true nature as a far more significant and terrifying entity, a key, meticulously crafted to unlock the doors between realities, a tool that bridged the vast expanse separating worlds unseen and unknown. This realization dawned on Anne with a weight that pressed upon her soul, a burden of knowledge that reshaped her understanding of the universe and her place within it. The substance was no simple creation of chemical engineering, it was a nexus of cosmic significance, a focal point where the intentions of humanity and the immutable laws of the cosmos intersected. The encounters with the entities, the guardians of these dimensional thresholds, had imparted upon Anne a clarity of purpose. These beings, neither malevolent nor benevolent by human standards, stood as the custodians of a balance that spanned the multiverse. The substance, in its essence, was an affront to this balance, a human-made anomaly that tore through the delicate fabric of dimensional separation. As Anne pieced together the fragmented knowledge gleaned from her journey and the dark corridors of the government facility, a chilling realization settled over her. Alex, her friend and fellow seeker of truth, had not merely vanished. He was trapped, his consciousness cast adrift in the boundless, terrifying expanse of the parallel dimensions. His disappearance was no accident of fate, but the result of his unwavering quest to unveil the truth, a quest that led him to cross the thresholds meant to remain sealed. The substance had served as his key, as well, but without the forewarning of the dangers that lay beyond, Alex had found himself ensnared in a reality far removed from human comprehension. The horrifying reality that Anne had glimpsed was now his prison, a realm where time, space, and essence were alien concepts, governed by rules unfathomable to the human mind. Anne's heart ached with the realization of her friend's plight. The vibrant, curious soul that was Alex, now lost amidst the infinite, was a thought that haunted her every waking moment. It was a fate no being deserved, a never-ending odyssey through the unknown, with no hope of return or reprieve. But within this maelstrom of despair and revelation, Anne found a spark of resolve. The substance, the very key that had condemned Alex to his fate, now represented the only hope of his salvation. If it had the power to open the doors between dimensions, then perhaps it held the potential for closure, for bridging the gap between where she stood and where Alex was trapped. Armed with this newfound determination, Anne set her sights on a daunting mission. To navigate the treacherous currents of interdimensional space, to wield the substance not as a tool of inquiry, but as a means of rescue. Her resolve was fueled not just by the desire to save her friend, but by the need to rectify the reckless tampering with the fabric of reality that had led them to this precipice. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril, a venture into realms where the very laws of existence were alien and unforgiving. Yet, the bond that connected Anne to Alex, the shared drive for understanding and the pursuit of truth, served as a beacon through the darkness. In the silence of her contemplation, Anne prepared to embark on her most daring endeavor yet. With the key in her grasp and the echoes of otherworldly guardians in her mind, she vowed to breach the barriers, to find Alex amidst the cosmic vastness, and to bring him home. The path was uncertain, the outcomes unknown, but the journey was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a quest for connection, understanding, and redemption in the face of horrors beyond comprehension. In the stillness of a makeshift command center, cluttered with maps, documents, and the remnants of countless cups of coffee, Anne sat before a camera, the lens her silent witness. The weight of her decision hung heavy in the air, a palpable presence that filled the room with a solemn gravity. She was about to take a step from which there could be no return, a leap into the abyss, with the hope of illuminating the darkness for all to see. The camera blinked to life, its red light a steady beacon in the dim light. Anne took a deep breath, steadying herself for the moment that would define her journey, and, she hoped, alter the course of events that had led the world to the brink of an unseen catastrophe. "My name is Anne," she began, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions roiling within her. "And if you're watching this, it means I've made a choice to confront a truth so vast and terrifying that it threatens to unravel the very fabric of our reality." She paused, gathering her thoughts, each word measured, each sentence a testament to the journey that had led her to this moment. "I've uncovered a government conspiracy of unprecedented scope, involving experiments that have breached the boundaries between dimensions. These experiments, driven by ambition and hubris, have invited dangers not just to our world, but to the very structure of existence." Anne detailed the substance, the key to accessing these other dimensions, and the entities that guarded the thresholds. She spoke of the government's attempts to harness their power, of the breaches that had been opened, and of the catastrophic consequences that ensued. Her words painted a vivid picture of the otherworldly horrors and wonders she had witnessed, of the Guardian's warnings, and of the delicate balance that had been so recklessly disturbed. "The truth is," Anne continued, her gaze fixed on the camera, "this isn't just about scientific curiosity or national security. It's about survival. The entities we've contacted and the dimensions we've glimpsed hold powers beyond our comprehension. We've opened doors we cannot close, unleashed forces we cannot control." Her voice softened as she spoke of Alex, her friend whose pursuit of truth had led him to become lost in the very dimension she sought to expose. Alex was the first to uncover this, and he paid the ultimate price for his bravery. He is trapped in a reality beyond our own, a victim of the very experiments he sought to reveal. I cannot, in good conscience, allow his sacrifice to be in vain. Anne's message turned personal, a final testament to her resolve. "I'm recording this as a call to action, to anyone who values our world and the fabric of reality itself. The dangers we face are not just external, they are a product of our own making. It's time to confront these truths, to demand accountability, and to seek a way to mend the breaches we've created." The finality of her decision was clear as she concluded her message. "I am taking this evidence, everything I've gathered, to the public. But I'm also going beyond, in a bid to rescue Alex and to confront the entities ourselves. This may be the last you hear from me, but know that the truth doesn't die here. It's up to all of us to seek it, to protect it, and to fight for the balance of all worlds." With that, Anne ended the recording, the camera's red light winking out, leaving her. Anne stood, her resolve a shield against the uncertainty of the path ahead. She had laid bare the secrets that had consumed her, exposed the dangers that lurked beyond the fringes of reality, and called for action in the face of apathy. Now, she prepared to step into the unknown, armed with the substance and her unyielding determination, to close the breaches, to find Alex, and to face whatever lay beyond the veil. Her ultimate sacrifice, recorded in the final message, was not just a goodbye, it was a beginning, the first step in a journey that would change the course of history. In the dim light of early dawn, Anne sat at her makeshift desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating her determined features. The room was silent, save for the soft click of keys, as she compassed an email to her editor, a man who had long supported her investigative endeavors, even when they veered into the realm of the incredible. This message, however, was different from any she had sent before. It was a missive heavy with the weight of discovery and the shadow of potential farewell. The email contained attachments of all the evidence Anne had gathered. Videos, documents stolen from the facility, her personal notes, and the recordings of her own journey into the dimension beyond. Each file was a piece of the puzzle, a testament to the truth she had unearthed and the dangers they posed. The email was concise, a stark declaration of the situation's gravity and her intended course of action. By the time you read this, she wrote, I will have embarked on a journey from which I may not return. The evidence attached to this message reveals a government experiment that has endangered not just our world, but the very fabric of the multiverse. It is a story that must be told, a warning that must be heeded. She explained her plan to use the substance again, to cross into the other dimension in search of Alex, and to attempt a rescue that seemed as impossible as it was necessary. I cannot stand by while a friend and the balance of existence itself are in peril, she continued. This is my choice, made with a clear understanding of the risks involved. Anne implored her editor to ensure the evidence was made public, to ignite the discourse and investigation needed to confront the government's recklessness. Use this information to shine a light on the darkness we've uncovered, she urged. Demand accountability, seek closure of the breaches, and protect our world from the consequences of these experiments. With a heavy heart, Anne hit send, casting her message into the digital ether, a beacon of truth in a sea of secrecy and silence. The act was a final affirmation of her commitment, a step beyond the threshold of return. She packed lightly, her equipment a minimal burden for the journey ahead. The substance, the key to the other dimension, lay secure in her pocket, its presence a constant reminder of the task ahead. Her preparations were methodical, each step a meditation on the path she had chosen. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Anne made her way to the location where she had first crossed into the other dimension. The desert around her was silent, a vast expanse of sand and rock that had borne witness to her friend's disappearance, and would now serve as the stage for her attempt at rescue. With a deep breath, Anne ingested the substance, the key that would unlock the door between worlds. The familiar sensation of dissolution overtook her, the boundaries of her being blurring as the landscape around her began to warp and fade. She stepped forward, not into the desert, but into the abyss beyond, her heart a beacon of hope in the enveloping darkness. Anne ventured into the other dimension with a single purpose: to find Alex and bring him back from the brink of oblivion. It was a mission fueled by friendship, by the unyielding human spirit's drive to seek, to save, and to understand. The void beyond awaited, a realm of infinite possibilities and dangers, where the fate of one and the future of many hung in the balance. As she crossed the threshold, Anne carried with her the determination to confront whatever lay ahead, to challenge the entities and forces that dwelled in the dimension beyond. It was a journey not just of rescue but of redemption, an endeavor to mend the tears in the fabric of reality, and to restore the balance so carelessly upset by human curiosity and ambition. Months had passed since Anne's message was sent into the world, a digital bottle cast into a sea of uncertainty and fear. The revelation of the government's experiments, the existence of other dimensions, and the perilous breaches that had been opened between them had ignited a storm of public outcry, investigative fervor, and governmental denials. Yet, amid the chaos of revelations and recriminations, one question loomed largest. What became of Anne? The desert, once a silent witness to the secrets it harbored, became a focal point for those seeking to understand, to find traces of the journey Anne had embarked upon. Search parties scoured the landscape, journalists and truth seekers alike hunted for evidence, and the government, caught in the glare of exposure, launched its own covert efforts to control the narrative and the fallout. But Anne, like Alex before her, had vanished, leaving behind only the echoes of her determination and the digital testament of her discoveries. The evidence she provided, meticulously documented and irrefutably presented, served as a beacon for those who dared to confront the truth, to question the limits of human ambition, and the dangers of tampering with the fundamental laws of existence. In the wake of her disappearance, a movement arose, fueled by the revelation she had brought to light. Activists, scientists, and ordinary citizens came together, united in their demand for transparency, for the cessation of the dangerous experiments, and for the protection of the balance between worlds. Her message, her warning, became a rallying cry for a global community, awakened to the realities that lay just beyond the veil of their understanding. The government, faced with undeniable evidence and a public outcry too powerful to suppress, was forced to acknowledge the existence of the experiments. Commissions were formed, inquiries launched, and slowly, the extent of the recklessness and hubris that had led to the breaches was unveiled. Measures were taken to close the rifts, to mend the fabric of reality that had been so carelessly torn. The substance and the keys to other dimensions were sealed away, designated too dangerous for any further exploration or exploitation. Yet, for all the closure that was sought, for all the attempts to heal the wounds inflicted upon the universe, the fate of Anne and Alex remained a mystery, a poignant reminder of the human cost of curiosity, unchecked by wisdom. Their disappearance became a legend, a cautionary tale of bravery, sacrifice, and the eternal quest for knowledge. In the silence of the desert, where the saga began, a monument was erected, a simple stone marker bearing their names and a message. In pursuit of truth, they ventured beyond the horizon of our understanding. May their courage inspire us to seek knowledge with wisdom and respect for the unknown. And so, the legacy of Echoes of the Abyss lived on, not just as a chapter in the annals of human endeavor, but as a beacon for future generations. It stood as a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who seek the truth, to the bonds of friendship that transcend the boundaries of worlds, and to the responsibility that accompanies the quest for understanding the mysteries of the cosmos. Anne's final message, her ultimate sacrifice, did not mark the end, but the beginning of a new awareness, a global consciousness of the delicate balance that exists